and welcome to Tell
Me.
English. So what are we doing today, Andrés?
Today we are interviewing Jake to see how he learned Spanish and see what tips we could take from him.
Okay, question one, Andrés.
First of all, what languages do you speak?
The language I speak, so 2.5 years ago I only spoke English. I learnt French at school, but very, very little. I knew maybe 5 words, the basic words like au revoir,
A few moments later.
bonjour, just nothing major. I did a tiny bit of German as well, but again, maybe 2 words, just bad words. Question number 2.
Did you study Spanish in school?
So I moved to Spain about 2.5 years ago in June 2017. Prior to this, I did take, I think, 8 weeks of classes in London, in England. So I did 2 hours a week in London for 8 weeks. So I did 16 hours of classes, but again, it was just the pure basics. But when I arrived to Spain, I could still say only little basic things. Now, question number 3.
So not only you lived in a culture in which you had to speak the language, but also you took time by yourself to study?
Yes, exactly. So I knew when I arrived, just speaking in the streets and in social events, well, I wouldn't have been able to speak in these social events from zero Spanish. So I knew I had to do something by myself to get the small basics to start practicing in these social events or in the supermarket or in the street or wherever I need to use it. Now, number 4.
How many hours a day did you study English?
Oh my gosh.
English.
No. How many hours a day did you study Spanish?
Well, this is a difficult question because personally I study at home maybe 1.5 to 2 hours by myself. But then I also went outside and practiced in the streets and in social events. Andrés, number 5, please.
So how did you study at home? Did you have a book? Did you, looked online for information? What did you do?
Yeah, so in the first week, I thought, what is the best way to do this? And I thought, well, all conversations are using many verbs. So surely if I learn these verbs to begin with, I can chain sentences together. So I thought, well, if I learn the top 100 verbs of the Spanish language, so I Googled away top 100 verbs, and if I learn all of these, I could speak basic language. I'm ready for number 6.
Spanish is known for being a complicated language in terms of grammar. So when you're saying that you were focusing on the verbs, did you also focus on how to conjugate the verbs, or were you just learning the base form?
Yeah, well, this was the problem. I soon realized that Spanish verbs aren't like English verbs. So I thought, well, if I know how to say it in the verb complete form, I can start with just yo. For example, I have is tener. If I don't have to say the yo form, so the I form, I could just say yo tener, and people would understand. So my first strategy was learn 100 verbs and how to say them in English. Then step 2 was to learn for each case, for I, for he, for you. I could then start saying a little bit more and start saying more correctly. Okay, number 7.
So how did you learn vocabulary? Did you print some lists, or did you just listen and then pay attention to what words were being said and focused on them?
Yeah, good question. So obviously I had this list of 100 verbs. I obviously had to play, to have, to do, and I started to think, well, what do I say mostly with these verbs in English? So for play, I play football a lot, and my friends play football, and my friends play video games. And they also play instruments and music. So I thought, well, I surely need to know how to say these words. I don't play myself, for example, cricket or rugby. I didn't need to know how to say these words. So I first thought of, if I was meeting someone for the first time, what questions would they ask me in English? And then what verbs would I use in my response? and then using these verbs, learn the vocabulary I would then use with these verbs. Question number 8.
What is the main difference between learning in a school and learning by yourself?
In a school, obviously you're learning what the teacher wants to learn, and maybe you're learning for an exam, but you're not learning for a talking environment. Like, I didn't learn how to say, how are you in school. I was learning more the pronunciation of each letter at the start. I was then learning how to say rain and snow and things like that, and then how to tell the time. But I don't ask these things in English. I don't ask people every day, what is the time? I don't ask, is it raining every day? But I may ask every day, where is the something? So to learn where is the, of course, that must be a very important phrase. Alongside learning these 100 verbs, I learned how to ask these little questions too. Number 9.
How did you actually learn them? Like, did you spend some time per day reading them or writing sentences or
Yeah,
what?
good question. I thought, well, how did I learn things in school? And I used to use these things called flashcards. So on one side, I wrote the English verb, maybe to have. On the other side, I wrote the Spanish verb, haber or tener. And then I would have 100 little cards with each verb in Spanish and in English. And I would start with the Spanish side. And I would read it, I would say it, and I would think, well, what is it in English? If I knew, I'd put it in one pile. If I didn't know, I'd put it in the other pile. I'd then do 100. I'd then pick up the pile I didn't know and check again until I had another pile with 100 completed verbs that I knew.
Okay, and
But-
how long did that take?
Well, this is where it doesn't stop. So I start with the Spanish side. When I completed the 100, I then had to flip all the cards over and do from English to Spanish another 100 times and putting them in the both piles. Question number 10.
Did the flashcards have the conjugation or was it just the base form of verb?
So the first week was simply in the infinitive form. So I would learn, for example, play, jugar. The week 2, after learning all 100, was when I started to break down these verbs.
What were the easiest and the hardest parts of learning these 100 verbs?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. Well, I think the easiest part was obviously learning the first 100 in the base form, in the infinitive. Because obviously at the start it was just a game, and it was like a competition against myself. I didn't feel any pressure or anything like that. But obviously, when I went into then the second week, and then I started to see all of these irregular verbs, seeing all of these different types of conjugations. This is just present tense I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
In the past tense and the subjunctive, which doesn't exist in English either, that obviously just freaked me out. I was just in shock. I just had maybe 25 words to learn for one verb, and English it's like 4 words. And that was the hardest part. When you realize for each of these 100 verbs, you've got another 25, it's like, I've got 2,500 new words to learn. 100 now seems so easy.
So thank you, Jake, for sharing your experience.
Thank you.
I hope that we as English learners could take some of that and apply it into our learning strategies and learning methods.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, and we will leave a link below in the comment section of the top 100 verbs that I use personally, so you can now use them yourself. Maybe you want to write them down on a piece of paper of card and use this as like a game, or maybe you want to write sentences, or maybe you just want to read them. Whatever is your way of learning, you can do it your way. Okay, thank you very much for watching. So remember to
Oh my gosh.
So remember to
Like,
and
comment,
and
subscribe.
yes, and we will see you in the next video.
Yeah.
Yes, bye.